What's up guys, it's Michael here. In this video, we're going to cover how does parenting affect what you do and what does your child do in the future. So what's interesting is there was an article posted by CNBC and usually there's nothing much to take away for ordinary people as the common folk. But in this case, this concept can actually be applied to everyone. It doesn't have to be, parenting doesn't have to be your child. It can also be yourself. So what's interesting is there's actually the CEO of YouTube and their parents actually went on CNBC to explain how did they raise two successful doctors and one successful entrepreneur. So three children. One of them was the CEO of YouTube, which is crazy. The other two are doctors. So when I looked into the article, it's like, okay, maybe they have a lot of money, maybe they did this, they did that. But what caught me was really intriguing is because it's behavioral issues, meaning how did they train their children to do what they do? How do you train them to basically not hand them everything, have them go and get it, and also help them out? Basically, you look at as a parenting balance. So before we get into this, please click the like button down below and a subscribe button so YouTube will notify you when I upload a new video. What is really intriguing when you look into these type of subjects is how did they train it? Because a lot of people never thought about, well, hey, when you talk to your children, you give them either, your typical response, you either ignore them, or you can call it, you basically shield them from everything, which is not really well. And you can see these behavioral issues because you look online like major news media, like a kid, for example, driving a Lamborghini in Beverly Hills, they crash and potentially harm or injured someone, which you can see plenty of those. Or you look at children who are more poor income families are neglected to the point that they basically go do their own things. So at that point, you see like a common pattern is parenting issues. So a lot of people would like to think maybe you just need to help them out more. So you gotta be careful because when I look in the article, there's something called helicopter parenting, or you can call it snowplowing parenting, meaning like a snowplow, you basically plow all the obstacles away. You give your children basically no way to overcome an obstacle, basically no training. And you look at the definition of helicopter parenting, you're basically like a support system right above the child. Basically, your child, yourself, if like autonomous drone is basically covering you, but covering all the obstacles to the point you don't have to do anything. You don't have to try. So what is really unique is there's actually a balance in it. And there's 5 things that this person mentioned who raised 3 successful children. Remember, 2 doctors, and one of them is an entrepreneur and a CEO of YouTube, where you're watching this video from, which is, I believe is awesome, because most of these people do not diverge topics like these out to the public because they try to keep it a secret. Most of the time, like they might actually blur it out, but they usually don't explain in depth. In this place is them giving back to society and explaining what is each. So the first one they mentioned is, I believe is really important, is trust. So trust has to start with the parents. Meaning is, which I personally experienced this myself. When you have trust between the parent and the child, or trust with someone, you tend to explain things better to them. You tell them the situation. So, like, for example, you got an F in class in one of your elementary schools, or you tell them you're not going to college, for example. And when you tell them that, you got to explain to them what's the reason why. But if the parent comes and starts like yelling at the children, say you should do this, you should do that, just instead of giving them guidance or giving them advice, you're forcing them to dictate. So you can look at it as authoritarian in that case. Which if you do it that way, basically trust there is broken. You gotta find what do they like, what do they want to do, and this include yourself. What do you like, what you want to do, how do you build trust and build a better relationship? It's basically listening to what they want to do, listening to what they say, and also projecting your will, but at the same time not enforcing it. And just ask them, just give them hints or suggestions. For example, you can tell them like what you want to do if you don't want to go to college. What you want to do if, let's say, for example, your business doesn't go well. And in this case, what you got an F in like a test or paper. So what do you want to do to improve it? Do you need training? Do you need help? What do you suggest? And here is my suggestion. That's actually a perfect way to build trust. Is giving them an option, giving them a road, not cutting off their options and road blocking every single way until you get your way. Because your way might not work for them. If it doesn't work for them, you will not get the result that you're looking for. Number 2 is respect. So respect is similar to trust, in my opinion. So based on what CNBC says and what they explain to this article is they said every child has a gift, and they're saying it's our responsibility to nurture that gift. And this is the opposite of telling them who to be. This is exactly what I just mentioned before. Projecting your will and enforcing it. Basically becoming an authoritarian. You want to be authoritative, but not authoritarian. Meaning you want to help them out, but not basically point them where you want them to go. Because at the end, if they don't like it, for example, if they don't like school, it's not going to work out for them at the end. Because you're projecting your will, what you think they should do, and they don't want to do it. There's an imbalance. There's like a positive, and you add a negative. What do you result? A negative. You need 2 positive or 2 negatives to get a positive. So respect goes a long way, which unfortunately a lot of people in society lack. But if you build respect, you can expect your child or yourself to build trust within yourself, mentally, and also physically with a connection, building a connection at the end. So if you have trust of each other or you have trust in yourself, you're more confident. So going down to number 3 is, this one's pretty interesting. This one does not apply to everyone. They call it independence. This relies upon a strong foundation of trust and respect for truly independent kids who are capable of coping adversity, setbacks, and boredom. So this one is pretty interesting because boredom does not apply to everyone. Maybe you can apply for your jobs, maybe you can apply for school. But independence, meaning is allowing them to think outside a box, to make it more clear what did he mention, is allowing your children to basically select what they want to do. Because a lot of people in these days, like, for example, I asked my video editor, who's actually editing this video right now, I asked him what you want to do in the future. He doesn't know. So you can give him suggestions, you can give him ideas, but at the end, which is really interesting, is allow them to pick, allow them to suffer a setback, to at the end maybe open up to different opportunities in the future. Like, you don't have to find a job in 20. It doesn't look as great, and there's a lot of setbacks, but it gives an opportunity to build something special at the end, meaning being independent, meaning choosing what you want to do, what you want to pursue this goal, or go for a different area of expertise you want to be in. So a lot of people in school, they want to be independent. Like, the American culture wants to be independent because a lot of people, when they're 18, they move them out, they have them go do their own things. So that's the definition of independent. So there's good and bad for being independent too much. So for example, if you're independent too much, you're a parenting, you give no care, you have basically no one to support you. It makes it really difficult to be emotionally stable. You want to give some support, but not so much to a point that they basically stop working themselves. There needs to be a balance. The whole point, what they're trying to explain, is balance between parenting and between you and the child, or basically you and yourself and what you want to do in the future. So going down to the 4th one is collaboration. So collaboration, this is exactly ties in with the previous 3. So collaboration, their meaning is working together as a family, in a classroom, or a workplace. So in a classroom, a lot of teachers trying to help children, but in this case, most of these days, is the opposite. They're there to make money. It's a business. So in a classroom, that's pretty a stretch, honestly. Workplace, that's kind of a stretch too, because a workplace, they're in the business to make money. And there's a lot of people who are posting articles that people are now doing the quiet quitting, meaning they're working the bare minimum in their job, which there's good and there's bad. But at the same time is they're not getting the benefits of fighting inflation. They're not seeing a future in their job. But that's a whole nother topic to cover into. But the most important one to take away from this is working together as a family. That is really important because family builds the closest connection to you, builds the closest trust. It's a place where you can build the best type of respect, which you're willing to tell them what's in your mind. You're willing to tell them if something you're having trouble with this certain thing or idea. For example, like what happens, like you need money to borrow from someone, or you need to stay in your family's home. You need to move back home because you're running out of money, the place is too expensive to stay. That helps a lot. It's building trust and respect. And that's the definition of independence. You suffered a setback, but when you suffer a setback, you want to give them the push and forward to try something different and move on and continue forward to grow. So collaboration helps a lot between parenting because you got to give them help, but not give them too much help. So there has to be a balance. And the balance is really dependent on every specific situation and is depending on every type of parenting style you want to do. Personally, looking at what they mentioned, You want to be adorative. This is different from authoritarian. Adorative, that means you're giving them a set goal and you give them an option to go somewhere else. Basically giving them multiple pathways for them to take. And what is your take on those pathways? And then you ask them, what do they think of those pathways without your influence? Which goes down to number 5. This one, society is lacking, honestly. A lot of people lack kindness, which is number 5. So kindness, they state, real kindness involves gratitude, forgiveness, service toward others, and an awareness of the world outside yourself. Meaning this literally applies to everyone. So you look at the biggest one that lacks kindness is big media. Big media lack kindness, including a lot of small medias too. Hopefully I do not become that like myself, but it's a give and take. Kindness is treating people how you want to be treated. So basically, for example, you can say giving a person advice. Telling a person that like, hey, this is wrong and this is right, but giving them an opportunity to think for themselves. But at the same time, don't be a jerk about it. Just explain to them what do you think. Explain to like, I don't think this is right. For example, you're driving on the freeway, you got people cutting you off and he starts brake checking you. That's definition of lack of kindness for that guy. But do you have to stoop up to his level? That's the next question. How what you think and how what you do will make your day. And also kindness, how to relate back to family and parenting is you, when you go to them, you go to your children, you go to friends and family. How do you treat them? Do you say hi and hello? What type of face do you give them? What type of voice and attitude you give them? It really dictates the mood and setting and culture. So these 5 things is what CNBC's interview with a parent who raised 3 successful children, which is the CEO of YouTube, and 2 of them are doctors, which is really amazing. And these 5 things that they mentioned, this can be practiced by literally everyone. People watch this video, you can practice, even if you don't have children, you can practice it on yourself. Giving yourself respect, giving yourself kindness to build confidence. You just remember, a setback is not the end of the world. It's just something that you can learn upon. So failure is the road to success. Meaning you make a mistake, that means you can learn from it. And the interesting part is, a lot of people, like when I mention and talk about this, including myself, always forget these 5 things. And after reading this article, I will start to pay more attention to it. Meaning that when I go out and meet people, I treat people how I want to be treated. And when I make these videos, I treat people with respect. I give them options and advice. I give them basic ability to think for themselves. By saying that, like, for example, there's a lot of people who make videos saying that they're always right, that you're always wrong. So the whole thing is, you just cannot be afraid to be wrong. And at the end is you want to learn from it and grow from it and help other people do better and help yourself to become a better person. So that's it for this video. I hope you guys like it. Please like, share, and subscribe. And I'll see you guys next time. Peace.